As we are all aware, this is also the year for our governorship election. Expectedly, political activities will gain prominence as we march towards the election. However, let me implore all political parties, aspirants, and their followers to eschew violent conduct that can threaten the peace and tranquility of our state, and ensure that they follow strictly the guidelines issued by the electoral umpire. The election should be a contest of ideas and choices and not an opportunity to settle political scores or an excuse for calumny. As we are all aware, this is also the year for our governorship election. Expectedly, political activities will gain prominence as we march towards the election. However, let me implore all political parties, aspirants, and their followers to eschew violent conduct that can threaten the peace and tranquility of our state, and ensure that they follow strictly the guidelines issued by the electoral umpire. The election should be a contest of ideas and choices and not an opportunity to settle political scores or an excuse for calumny.
anything that you're trying to trace, when did it start, or how did it emerge, or where did we go wrong, you have to start from the beginning. You realize that by the time we got independent and we had a structured civil service that was literally copied from the British system, people were very contented. They were specifically trained to either be secretaries, to be admin officers. Cadres are very straightforward. Technical people are doing their technicalities with the supervision and leadership of a bit of the colonial masters. And everything was fairly okay. Those early civil servants were not particularly hungry to enrich themselves. They were not greedy, and they were fairly looked after. And in those days, even when people retire, you will find that they never had anything. There are people who retire and they only depend on their pension and so on and so forth. But certainly nowadays that's not the case. The motivation, the morale boosting, the consideration of the civil servant to be looked after, I think is getting weaker and weaker. Now where we are is civil servants, there's no housing for civil servants. Yes, there are programs here and there trying to build owner-occupiers and so on and so forth, but the impact is not as strong as it used to be. There used to be vehicle loans for civil servants. I don't think that is there anymore. And the salary reviews, the disparity. Look at an NNPC worker who probably could be on the same level as somebody in the mainstream Ministry of Petroleum. The disparity of their salary, even their drivers, is very, very wide. I know of some parastatals where the lowest paid people, like drivers and so on and so forth, are earning more than assistant directors, deputy directors. So that disparity also creates some kind of hunger for doing the wrong thing. Then you start asking questions. How come whether it's a politician or a civil servant who is on this salary scale, has this house, has this type of cars, whose children are schooling outside, who is going into private hospital, and so on and so forth? The answer certainly would be there must be some kind of extra income somewhere, and unfortunately most of it comes through corrupt practices. There is no way the political leadership will get away in service with any corrupt practice without the padding of the civil servant. He knows the tricks of budgeting. He knows the tricks of implementing without implementing. He knows the tricks of expenditure without spending, and so on and so on. He can be able to package reports of things that were done that has not been done. And literally, that is where the system has found itself. And unless we minimize this manual way of doing things and go digital, it will be very, very difficult to pick the people who are breaking the rule. But we also have to look at the remunerations. We have to look at the ways of life. We have to balance things. We have to do everything to ensure that people become more efficient. When you are engaged more and you are efficient, I think the tendencies to now break the law will become less. These are very simple things if we are prepared to learn from others, but it becomes difficult if we just close our eyes and close our ears. And certainly COVID is showing us that it is because if your hospitals is not good and COVID hits you and you can't travel to another person's hospital, that money will not repair you. That money will not treat you.
Welcome back, everyone. Our talking points this morning centers on economic collapse and the way out in the Nigerian state. We're being joined by a public affairs commentator, Dr. Winga Fasher. It's nice to have you join us on AM today.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, my people.
Now, let's start from what's been the um, preponderance of opinion as far as this issue of economic downturn is concerned. Many have blamed the removal of food subsidy. Many have also blamed the non-productive nature of our economy. Others have said that we should return to the good old days of agriculture. And all of this put together, they could be right, they could also be wrong. What do you say?
For me, there is nothing called collapse of economy. The economy has not collapsed. What we're going through presently in the country is a reform, economic reform. For this, we are not in economic collapse. It's you can take a cue from history. In the United States, you see Margaret Thatcher when he feels a need for the system to be reformed. And of course, it's a structure that is unpopular. People don't want to toe the line of making a reform. When you make policies, where policies being emanated that change the system and the mode of operandi of the economy. Now, presently, I think what we're going through in the country is not a collapse of the economy, but for me, it's a reform of the economy.
So, how well do you think this reform was thought out, or were thought out before, embarking upon that? Because there are also concerns among Nigerians that look, nobody is opposing reforms, but have you crossed the T's and dotted the I's to say we're embarking on this and we're making alternatives for people, or perhaps also looking at some of the fallout of the reforms and preparing for them?
Beautifully. When this was done, removal of subsidy, we cannot continue to begin to subsidize Naira for life. And of course, for this change that does happen, the T's have been crossed. The I had been dot. How? Alternatives have been done, the palliative had been run out. Federal government, January this year, what was released to the 3 tiers of government is over 1.1 trillion that was being released. For that, we can see that with this, what is now left is that volume of money that have been given to the 3 tiers has not been so in the last decades. But now it is now left for them, for the people, and of course the palliative measure have been put in place.
And that's where the question also lies. You've rightly said, perhaps, that preparations have been made and the results have also been coming in. But just some of the fallouts of, take for example, the removal of fuel subsidy, which has led to the increment in the federal allocation among the 3 tiers of government. How well has this been utilized? That's a question.
As a nation, I repeat, the utilization, number one, depends, like I said, if we have 3 tiers of government, the local government, the state government, and the federal government. And I said, if you look at your summary, in the last 10, 15 years, what has just been released to these 3 tiers has not been so. Fine, it has increased. Now, you see what some state government are doing. Some state government, a relief arrangement because a reform is going on. Now, state governments have started doing palliative measures, not only palliative. A lot of people are saying at this moment we don't need structural development. We don't need, we need at the moment stomach infrastructure. As much as they say, fine, let's go into it. And as it is, you have seen some state government have started this, another state that you have not seen. Of course, they are in the pipeline. They are doing theirs to make sure that they are able to cushion the effect of this reform in their respective state and the local government.
Some people will not agree with you and would want to rather see that the proceeds of the removal of subsidy were utilized to make refineries work, well utilized to make life better, infrastructure development, and all of those other things. But do you think Nigeria could get to that point where we will be independent about all of this? For instance, I give you this shocking news. Russia is considering stopping export of petrol to Nigeria. And what does that tell you? A removal of subsidy on petrol would bring more hardship if you're not careful. What's happening to our refineries? So where exactly then is the gain of the removal of free subsidy?
Thank you. You're asking for the gain. From my point of view, Mr. President promised us. I want us to see it that when a reform will come to be, any government who process such will become unpopular and will be battered and will be eaten by the populace, which is expected. But as it stands, you can see that Mr. President had promised, he said, refinery, if the chunk of the reason why been downplayed had been because of this exchange rate factor, he had said our refinery will work at given a time. And of course, I will tell you this, even for free. I have a colleague of mine that we went to school together who is telling me, giving me an update of the work process over there, saying the refinery is almost at peak in the process.
So the December 2023 deadline was the ruse.
Sir, it's not a robot science. It's not a rocket science. For that, he had said, if the first data had been given, as he speaks, he had informed me, he said, soonest that will be in place, and Nigerian fuel will be available for Nigerian people.
Interesting. Let's take a look at some of the areas that we've witnessed reform, not just in the fuel subsidy removal. We've also seen in the financial sector, particularly perhaps some monetary or reform, and of course regulations coming through in the financial sector. The latest time is the one a lot of youths are concerned about, the issue of the clampdown on some platforms like the Binance and the likes. But really, I watched the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, who spoke recently about the rot that has really eaten deep into the Nigeria economy, that is affecting Nigeria economy at this time. What do you make of the comments he made, particularly about the efforts to change things in that area?
My brother, what I will say from this is that there are people who are calling, and of course, they are projecting the present government of the day to have been taking a wrong step. And from what he has said, the finance expert has said, the DBOs, their interest is because they gain at the expense of the entire populace of Nigeria. For that, what they are trying to do is to plan of the expert is trying to do. The DBOs, because what they do is they're exploiting us. They gain at the expense of the entire nation. And now if the program, the policy, the plan is to object and of course truncate whatever move they want to do, expect a reaction. What we are seeing is a reaction from those people who are beneath the DBOs.
How well will the government be able to hold on? Talking about the reaction, the president has said corruption will fight back. People, those who are opposed to changes would also fight back. But really, we've seen government in time past embark on a step and just somehow you just find that move reversed or just fizzle out and Nigerians don't get to see anything. What sort of strength and courage do you think will be needed going forward? Looking at the fact that recently, when the labor union protested, part of what the demands they made, government should tax the rich and subsidize the poor, really. And we've seen the president, upon assumption of office, set up a committee on tax reform. But proposals have been made, but have we started even seeing steps in that direction?
The implementation of that tax reform committee that has been set up, what we're expecting is that the Mr. President will implement these policies and there are reviews of this committee being set up. But as much as we await the implementation of the committee, of course their report, we must at the same time understand that the NLC is not Nigerian. It's a leadership. NLC has a leadership of its Congress, not the entire nation. For that, as much as they make their outcry, the entire nation still does. And of course, they must understand that as much as they have their own strength to go out and contest, and of course make their opinion. They must understand that it's not for the entire nation. Theirs for the labor force of the nation.
Now, talking about making certain sacrifices for Nigeria to get better, some have also faulted the efforts of the president, especially get towards cutting costs. When in actual fact you find him having an over bloated cabinet, you also find his convoy most times getting so questionable with the long lines of vehicles and all of that. Shouldn't those in authority also consider cutting costs through sacrificial lifestyle too, and not just Nigerians?
There is a response to your take, my brother. Mr. President said he checked down the convoy. At the moment, the convoy of Mr. President has been checked down. Traveling escort of Mr. President has been cut down, not only to him, to the Vice President and down the line. For that, these are part of what, and of course, extended to other tiers, have been told to do, to told the part that let's cut costs. Even, of course, if we are preaching this to the people, then we must be able to be an actor for what we say. For this, the federal government, at the moment, even traveling escort has been cut down. Not only that, around the structure of the governance, we're practicing cutting of costs.
The debate on restructuring still continues, and the conversation around achieving what many say should be true restructuring. And recently, the president mentioned his commitment to that cause, that he will still restructure the country. But this time, he's trying to lay that solid foundation. Some say, where exactly are this foundation the president is laying? For you, what foundations do you think must be laid, really, holistically, across board?
What the first thing he did, which is removal of subsidy. You want to lay firstly, which is subsidy. And of course, subsidizing naira, a currency. That I want to believe a strong index to stabilize and make a reform of the economy of the nation. And of course, he had told this part, which is generally unpopular, generally unacceptable. A lot of economics experts, you have not seen them to begin to attack, except for those who have biased opinion. You have not seen economic experts coming out to attack these reforms or his plan. Why? Because they see the nation must do this part for us to get better. I must tell you this, Nigerians, we are living a fake life for a very long time.
In what sense?
Yes. Those who have been at the helms of affair are running away from becoming unpopular. All they want to do, the structural plan that will not affect their person, their name. But what Tinubu is trying to do at the moment is to say we must make this reform. And except we do this, for anyone to make such a reform, I tell you, one of the factors that will happen is this: it will cause a slight hardship on the economy, on the people. It will definitely pass a slight hardship, and that's what we're going through. And of course, before you can make a change, before you can make betterment, at least sacrifice must come in. And which, of course, all of us is pleading. Give us time. It's a sacrificial time. Let's make the change will come. Why? At the moment when, though he had promised the Nigerian fuel will be sold at Nigerian pump price now, but now we're expecting that in no time this will be implemented, which indeed will be for the betterment of the majority of Nigerians.
How much time do you think the president has for Nigerians to say, oh, really, things are now really getting better? Yesterday he was in Lagos, spoke about how unacceptable it is for the Nigerian protest and strike within just 9 months of his administration. So how much time do you think the president really has before it becomes right for, let's say, organizations like Labour or even Nigerians to start raising voices to say, look, perhaps you've not done this and you should have done this?
Let me say this, sir. How much time has it taken, how much years has it taken us to get to where we are? I'll put it back to you. How much years has it taken us to have done it in this same manner and we have gotten to where we are? I tell you, that the level of the economic state of our country, of our nation at the moment, is because past leaders fail to make a reform structure to make this betterment for us. I made an example of Margaret Thatcher. He became so unpopular because he told the part, if you asked me, what time exactly is it going to be? It's just like asking somebody who cut a tree and second, will this leaf wither? Will this that I'm planting today, this green, this seed that I'm putting in the soil today, which day will I see the seed? But of course, you must understand, it takes time for the germination of that seed to become a tree and fruit to come thereby. What Nigerians want to see is, Nigerians want to see the fruit. They do not want to accept that what needs to be done, the seed of the reform that had been planted, we must be able to wait and see it germinate and bring us our fruit. That's the time, sir.
So, no time really for that seed to really germinate.
That's what I'm saying. All we need to do, like Mr. President has said, he told the labor union, he said, you are not the only, you are not, it is not only your factor, your segment that encompasses or make up to be Nigerian. Other segments are there. And if you feel you want to come to contest, and come and make your own contest. For that, as he speaks, for me, I must tell you, what the nation is going through is a reform, and it's like a seed being planted that must be given time for it to germinate and, of course, to grow before it brings forth its fruit.
Would it have germinated before the next election?
I put that back to say I might not be able to specifically mention that if it will or not, sir.
Okay.
Beyond you being a member of the All Progressives Congress (APC), what are the things you think need improvement in the handling of the Nigerian economy and the Nigerian state in general as it currently is? Or is everything fine?
No, sir, get it well. I did mention that indeed there is hardship, though the economy had not collapsed.
I understand. So
now,
what we need to need retooling?
What we now need to do as a nation, like I mentioned, $1 trillion being given shared across the 3 tiers. Now, what we need to do now, like some states have started, is how do I relieve this hardship on our people before what we call to be a reform of seed to germinate? How do I, in a way, relieve this pain on the people of the nation? And of course, we can come up with state government, local government, to come up and say, okay, maybe civil servants, and say there is a board, maybe food supply board, maybe through your card, you can as well go and make request. Oh, like you go there and get what you want. A grain maybe had been supplied there for the civil service or the civil servant, I mean. Now, for the general public, it's expected that palliative measure should continue to alleviate the pain of the people. At the moment, I expect both local government, state government, coupled with what the federal government is doing, that of course we try to do something to ease the pain of the people. That's my view.
Well, we do hope that comfort and respite will soon come the way of Nigerians, and all the reforms will work in the favor of Nigerian state. I have to thank you so much for your time on the program. Thanks for coming. It's a Benga Fasha. Thanks for your time on.
Thank you so much.
Everyone, this is the size of the show this morning. Next week, Monday, God willing, from my colleague, Zahida Ibisala.
New month, new day. Of course, a lot could still happen heading forward. March on for the rest of the month. I'm Zahida Ibisala.
That's it. March on. On the head of anyone.
Of course.
Because it's indeed very important that you understand that you don't need to pull anyone down for you to go forward. If you're trying to pull down anyone, you would also be able to march forward. So let's do everything with decorum and with the fear of God. I am Sunday Kolawole. See you on Monday, God willing.